Imagine this. You're coming back from the grocery store with your bags, and the pain comes with you. At some point, you feel like dropping everything on the ground. You get home, and the pain is still there. You recently saw your doctor, your lab tests look normal, your imaging looks normal, and the doctor's tone subtly shifts from curiosity to conclusion. Not a diagnosis, a dismissal. They don't say, "I don't know." They say something worse. "There's not much we can do." And you walk out with a prescription and the sneaking feeling that the real problem is that you're somehow failing to be a normal person. If you've lived that moment, I want you to hear this up front. The most damaging thing about fibromyalgia isn't just the pain. It's the way outdated care teaches you to mistrust your own body. Quick note before we go further. I'm not a doctor, and this isn't medical advice. Use it to have a better conversation with your clinician. Now, here's my stance. No hedging. Fibromyalgia didn't suddenly get a cure, but the rules of responsible treatment have changed, and a lot of clinics are still playing by the old rules. And that gap between what modern guidance says and what patients actually receive is where most of the suffering multiplies. Here's your first win in under a minute because you deserve something concrete right away. If a clinician treats fibromyalgia like a dead end, that's not a truth about your body. It's a sign they're using an outdated playbook. Modern care is not nothing can be done. Modern care is we build quality of life with a plan we can measure. And if you want plain English updates as new treatments for chronic conditions emerge, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next breakdown. Now, let me jump to a headline most people missed. On August 15, 2025, the FDA approved Tanya, a sublingual form of cyclobenzaprine specifically for the treatment of fibromyalgia in adults. That's not a cure, don't let anyone sell it like one, but it's a signal that the medical system is still actively reshaping the toolkit. But here's the twist. The biggest shift in fibromyalgia isn't even about a new pill. It's about a new playbook, a structured, multi-part strategy that treats fibromyalgia like what it actually is, a chronic pain condition where the nervous system's alarm settings get turned up and symptoms spill into sleep, energy, mood, and cognition. So let me ask you the first question, because this matters. When was the last time a clinician explained your fibromyalgia like a system instead of a mystery? Because modern guidance doesn't talk like nothing can be done. It talks like we aim for quality of life, and we get there with a combination of tools chosen together, starting with non-drug treatments. That right there is the quiet revolution. Back in the day, the unofficial approach was run tests, shrug, try one medication, and if you're still struggling, you're complicated. The newer approach is more honest, and yes, more work, but it's also more empowering. Think in pillars, not miracles. Pillar 1, movement as therapy. Not push through, not boot camp guilt, but aerobic and strengthening work scaled to your reality, paced, graded, and personal. Pillar 2, brain and nervous system skills like cognitive behavioral therapy, pain education, and pacing tools, not because your pain is imaginary, but because your nervous system is involved, and skills can change how your brain interprets signals. Pillar 3, medications used strategically, not as the whole plan. Some options may help some people, but the framing matters. Meds work best as part of a broader plan, not as a lonely Hail Mary. And here's what I think is the most important cultural change. The best guidance is increasingly focused on preventing ineffective or dangerous practices and helping patients understand and participate in treatment, because fibromyalgia care goes off the rails when it becomes "do this, good luck." That's why so many people feel whiplash. One doctor says only pills, another says only exercise, another implies it's just stress.
But the actual modern message is you need a plan with legs. One leg doesn't hold you up. And in America, where time is short, referrals are slow, and insurance can treat physical therapy and mental health like luxury items, the three pillars can feel like a cruel joke. So let's get practical and a little confrontational in the best way, because I'm going to show you how to spot outdated fibromyalgia care in 2 minutes and the single question that forces a real plan instead of a shrug. Here it is, the question that changes the whole appointment. Can we write a 90-day plan that includes sleep, movement, and one targeted symptom medication, then measure what actually changes? Watch what happens next. If the response is, we'll just try this pill and see you in 6 months, you're in the old system. If the response is, fibromyalgia is complicated, but yes, let's pick a few levers, track them, and adjust, you're in modern care.
Because real progress with fibro almost never comes from a single silver bullet. It comes from stacking small wins so your nervous system stops living in a constant code red. Let's talk proof, quick, clear, and not mystical. Across major recommendations, exercise keeps showing up as the most consistently supported therapy, not because it's fun, not because it's easy, but because it helps pain and function when it's done in a paced, graded way. And I need you to hear the key word, graded. Not go hard, not no pain, no gain. It's start almost embarrassingly small and build like compound interest. This is why I get opinionated about the nothing we can do line. It's not just unhelpful, it's inaccurate. Now, let's address the elephant in the American room. Pain treatment often gets funneled towards stronger and stronger meds because that's what can be prescribed fast. But fibromyalgia doesn't reliably behave like an inflamed joint or a broken bone. So here are 2 red flag treatment patterns you should recognize immediately. This is your 2-minute outdated care detector. Red flag number 1, the plan is basically opioids, muscle relaxers, or repeating NSAIDs without a functional roadmap. For fibromyalgia specifically, opioids are not considered routine first-line care in major guidance because the benefits are often small and the risks can be big. And for many people, they create long-term problems without meaningful improvement. Red flag number 2, the plan ignores sleep. If sleep is wrecked, pain is louder, period. And yet so many appointments skip the question, are you actually getting restorative sleep? Not just hours in bed, restorative sleep. Because if you're waking up unrefreshed, snoring, gasping, or your legs are crawling at night, your pain system doesn't get a reset. Now, this is where I want to get practical with you. If you want your next appointment to go differently, don't show up with a monologue, show up with a map. Here's what that map looks like. First, your top 2 symptoms, not 10, 2. Pick the 2 that most sabotage your life: sleep, morning stiffness, brain fog, fatigue, anxiety, headaches, whatever. 2. Second, your crash pattern. What triggers a flare? A grocery run, travel, stress, a workout, a bad night of sleep? Identify the pattern because fibromyalgia is partly a threshold problem. Third, one metric you can track for 30 days. Steps, sleep quality, flare days, or minutes I can stand without pain. Something real. Then you say, I want a plan, not a label. And now here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of people are told to exercise and they get worse, which is why generic advice can feel like gaslighting. Because in fibromyalgia, the dose is the medicine. 10 minutes can be too much for one person and nothing for another. The starting line isn't moral, it's neurological. That's why graded activity often begins with something that sounds ridiculous. 2 minutes of walking, then stop before symptoms spike, or a few gentle strength moves, or water therapy if weight-bearing is brutal, or simply standing and stretching in a way that doesn't trigger that pay-for-it-tomorrow backlash. If you're thinking 2 minutes won't do anything, I get it. But here's the shift. You're not training muscles first, you're retraining the alarm system. And that brings me to the second question I want you to sit with. If your nervous system has been shouting for years, why would it respond to being yelled at louder? Exactly. Now, circle back to that 2025 headline for a second, because it matters in a very specific way. The FDA approving Tonmia isn't a magic wand, it's a reminder that research is still moving and options can expand. But I'm going to say something blunt. Even with new meds, the people who do best are usually the ones who stop hunting for the one perfect answer and start building the system: sleep, pacing, movement, stress response, and targeted meds if needed. So let me explain the part most people never get told: why fibromyalgia can feel like your body is inflamed even when tests look normal, why brain fog isn't in your head in the dismissive way, and how central sensitization changes what treatment even means. Let me describe the most confusing fibromyalgia experience and tell me if it sounds familiar. You wake up already tired. Your body feels like you did a full-body workout in your sleep. Your skin can hurt from a waistband. A grocery store trip wipes you out like you ran a 5K. And the weirdest part? It's not just pain. It's pain plus noise sensitivity plus temperature weirdness plus brain fog plus a stomach that flips on you plus a heart that sometimes races for no reason. Then the test results come back normal. And people act like normal tests means no problem. But here's the perspective shift that changes everything. Fibromyalgia isn't best understood as damaged tissue screaming.
It's better understood as a nervous system whose volume knob is stuck too high. That's what people mean, imperfectly, when they say central sensitization. Imagine your home smoke alarm. In a healthy system, burnt toast sets it off, you wave a towel, it shuts up. In a sensitized system, the alarm is so sensitive that steam from the shower triggers it, and then it keeps blaring long after the steam is gone. No fire, still chaos. That's why you can have normal imaging and still have real, relentless symptoms, because the problem isn't always the structure. Sometimes it's the signal processing. Now, I'm not saying it's all in your head. I'm saying it's in your nervous system, like tinnitus is real even when the room is quiet. Your brain isn't making it up. Your brain is interpreting inputs differently because the system has been trained by stress, poor sleep, illness, injury, genetics, life events to stay on high alert. And this is where fibromyalgia treatment quietly got smarter. It started aiming at the alarm system, not just the ache. Let's break this into 3 under-discussed drivers that make fibromyalgia feel impossible, and why addressing them is often where the biggest wins happen. Driver number 1, sleep that looks like sleep but isn't. You can be unconscious for 8 hours and still not get restorative sleep. If your sleep is fragmented by pain, anxiety, apnea, restless legs, hot flashes, reflux, your brain never does the deep maintenance that turns the volume down on pain pathways. This is why sleep first isn't a wellness cliche, it's a neurological lever. Driver number 2, the crash and burn loop. On a good day, you finally clean the house, run errands, see a friend because you want your life back. Then your body punishes you for it, so you rest. Then you decondition. Then a smaller effort causes a bigger crash. This loop teaches your brain that movement equals danger, and your system becomes even more reactive. The modern move is pacing, doing less than you can do on purpose, so your body relearns safety. It feels insulting at first, but it's how you stop paying interest on tomorrow's pain. Driver number 3, overlap conditions that hijack the whole picture. Fibromyalgia often travels with other issues: migraine, IBS, jaw pain, pelvic pain, hypermobility, autoimmune conditions, thyroid problems, mood disorders, perimenopause and menopause, sleep disruption, not because you're broken, but because these systems talk to each other. This is why the best clinicians don't just say fibro and stop thinking. They ask, what else is riding along with this? Because treating apnea, iron deficiency, vitamin D deficiency, depression, anxiety, or inflammatory arthritis doesn't cure fibromyalgia, but it can dramatically lower the symptom load. Here's the third question I want you to wrestle with. If your pain is real, but your tests are normal, what if the problem isn't proof? It's the tool you're using to measure it. That question matters because it stops you from chasing validation through endless labs, and it pushes you towards function-based care. What helps me sleep deeper? What lets me walk further? What reduces flare days? Now, I want to talk about brain fog because people underestimate how scary it is. Brain fog isn't just forgetfulness. It's that moment you walk into a room and blank. It's losing words mid-sentence. It's rereading the same email 3 times like your brain is buffering. And the cruel part is, when you can't think clearly, it becomes harder to advocate for yourself, harder to follow plans, harder to even explain what's wrong. That's why fibro is manageable can feel like a lie, because your very tools for managing it feel offline. But brain fog often improves when the foundations improve. Sleep quality, stress response regulation, gentle conditioning, and the right medication choice for your top symptom, not whatever was easiest to prescribe. For some people, targeting sleep architecture helps. For others, treating mood and anxiety reduces the background adrenaline. For others, it's getting off meds that worsen sedation and cognition. It's not one answer, it's a smarter search. And yes, that brings us back to medications, because this is where people get hurt by extremes. One extreme says meds are the answer. The other says meds are bad, just meditate. The balanced truth is meds can be useful tools, but only if they're chosen based on your symptom pattern and used alongside the pillars: movement, sleep, skills, and pacing. So I'm going to hand you something you can actually use, a practical, low-cost playbook for the next 30 days, how to talk to your doctor, what to track, what to try first if money is tight, and how to know whether a treatment is helping or just sedating you. Let's make this real.
Because the internet is full of fibromyalgia hacks that sound inspiring, right up until you try them for 3 days, crash for 2 weeks, and decide you're broken. You're not broken. You're dealing with a system that punishes extremes. So here's the 30-day playbook I wish every person with fibromyalgia got on day 1. Not a cure, a plan that builds evidence in your own body so you can stop guessing. Before we do this, 2 important truths. First, better often shows up as fewer flare days, faster recovery, and more usable hours, not zero pain. Second, the goal is not to become a hero. The goal is to become steady. Step 1, day 1, pick your North Star. Choose one function you want back. 1. Walk 15 minutes without paying for it tomorrow. Wake up with less stiffness. Work a full morning without brain fog panic. Write it down. That's your target. Step 2, days 1 through 30, track only 3 things. Too many trackers becomes another full-time job. Pick 3. Sleep quality, 0 to 10. Pain interference, 0 to 10. Not pain level, interference. And usable hours per day. How many hours you felt like you. That's it. Step 3, week 1. Build your minimum baseline. This is the part that feels insulting, and it's also the part that works. Pick one gentle movement you can do every day without flaring. 2 to 5 minutes of slow walking, 3 to 5 minutes of mobility or stretching, or 3 simple strength moves with a band. And here's the rule. Stop while it still feels too easy. You're not training grit, you're training safety. If you flare anyway, cut it in half. That's not failure, that's calibration. Step 4, week 1 to 2. Make sleep a medical project. Not sleep hygiene as a vibe, sleep as a lever. For 14 days, do 3 things. Same wake time 6 days a week, even if sleep was bad. Bright light within 30 minutes of waking, a window is fine. And a 30-minute downshift routine at night. Boring is good. And if you snore, gasp, or wake up unrefreshed no matter what, ask about sleep apnea screening. It's wildly underdiagnosed, and it can amplify pain and fatigue. Step 5, Week 2, add pacing, your flare insurance. Here's the simple pacing formula. Do 70% of what you think you can do on good days. Break tasks into 2 rounds with a rest in between. Schedule recovery like it's an appointment. Your nervous system learns from patterns. Pacing teaches it, we don't crash here anymore. Step 6, Week 2 to 4. Choose one targeted treatment lever with your clinician. Instead of, what can I take for fibromyalgia, ask, my biggest problem is sleep. What's our lowest risk strategy to improve restorative sleep? Or, my biggest problem is pain and mood spirals. What's a reasonable option to trial while we build the other pillars? Or, my biggest problem is nerve-like pain. What's a targeted medication trial with clear stop rules? And set the rules up front. Start low, go slow. One change at a time. Reassess at 4 to 6 weeks or sooner if side effects are bad. Now here's the mistake that makes people think treatment failed. They change 3 things at once, then crash, then can't tell what helped, what hurt, or what was just life. The second mistake, they judge a tool by the wrong outcome. A med that knocks you out is not necessarily fixing sleep. A plan that leaves you wiped out is not building strength. We're not chasing sedation or soreness, we're chasing stability. Medical disclaimer, I'm not a doctor and this isn't medical advice. Fibromyalgia symptoms can overlap with other conditions. Always talk with your physician before starting, stopping, or changing medications, supplements, or exercise routines, especially if you have heart issues, autoimmune disease, depression, or sleep disorders. And here's the 4th reflective question. What if the most effective fibromyalgia treatment isn't a single breakthrough, but the first month you stop swinging between all in and all out? Because that's the real shift. You stop treating your body like an enemy you must defeat, and you start treating it like a system you can retrain. So here's your closing challenge. For the next 30 days, don't ask, did my pain disappear? Ask, did my life expand even 5%? And here's a reflective CTA that actually helps someone. Think of one person who's been told it's all in your head. Send this video with one line. I believe you, and there's a better plan than shrugging. Because no cure doesn't mean no progress, and chronic doesn't mean hopeless. It means we play the long game smarter.